It's the last episode of T&D&D, at least for now. I'm going non-scripted on this one because I want to give it a little bit of a better send-off. This is going to be a little less informative and more just me dicking around and talking about whatever. So, good luck with that. Nevertheless, I hope you stick around because this podcast will probably not be seen for a while, unfortunately. I kind of wanted this to lead on to the series that's replacing it somewhat, which I suppose I'll do the announcement here. We're having quite a big shift in terms of our schedule and the like. Those of you in our Discord will probably already know, but for those of you who don't, we are scrapping half of our series, this one included, and we're moving over to making Curse of Strahd and Waterdeep Dragon Heist weekly, as well as keeping the subclass series, and also adding a new one, which this podcast is going to actually lead into. The new one is called Homebrew Kitchen, where you get to watch me live, not necessarily live streamed, but certainly watch my process of creating my own stuff for my games, whether it be a dungeon, adventure, even a handout, an NPC, whatever. We'll get down and dirty with it and we'll make it together. And I think that's going to be pretty interesting. So today, I wanted to lead in... I've done a couple videos about various homebrew things in the past, but I wanted to more talk about what specifically you will want to do when you're making homebrew, the steps that you can go through, coming up with ideas and stuff like that, so that when we jump into our new series, hopefully this will be a little helpful for you. I suppose we'll kick it off with how the heck do you even write them? And that's a good question. I recommend checking out, so for instance, if you wanted to do a subclass, check out a subclass within the same class and look at the formatting, right? So look at how it structures the information and figure out from there, right, how do I piece together mine and stuff like that. The main struggle for me, I've used a lot of different platforms for making my own homebrew. There's a place called the Home Brewery, there's a place called GM Binder, where they both format it in a way that looks very similar to the books, if that's your style, where you can do just a tiny little bit of coding. It'll only take a minute or two to properly get all the commands done, and it will be looking just like the Player's Handbook, which I think is pretty neat. But the Player's Handbook can sometimes not organize information as well as, say, perhaps D&D Beyond, which is where I primarily make my tools. The main reason I do that is because my players all use D&D Beyond for their character sheets, and I can't think of a single player I have right now that doesn't. Every single one of them uses it. So it's the easiest way to get them the homebrew items, because I can share them to them, and if as long as they're in my games and they search up the homebrew thing that I've made, it's there. The same as any of my other stuff that I have on there, like subclasses and the like. There are other ways to do it as well. You could write it on a handout on, Roll20 or whatever other virtual tabletop that you prefer to use. You can go wild with that, I suppose, if you'd like, which I've done before. I've made a couple on there for the players who like to pay attention to that sort of stuff. And Roll20 can help you pretty easily archive all the information that you need. I'm not really sure about the other virtual tabletops. I've only ever really played on Roll20. I played in an Icewind Dale campaign on Foundry, and that was a clusterfuck of... Sure, it had cool effects, but it killed my PC. Oh my god, it made everything so slow. But yeah, and I think that some ways that, so for instance, Matt Mercer's way is I'm going to write it on a card, and then I'm going to give it to my players. That's great. I love that. They get to get it, and it feels like they're being given something. If you want to go over the top and to the extreme, maybe even make the bloody thing that you're giving them. If it's a magic item, you can just hand it over. If it's a subclass, I always love to collaborate with my players on subclasses when they want to try something different. So for sure, get to work on that with them and maybe make them a nice little sheet. In the end, it doesn't really matter what you use, just think about what you want to use the best. There's definitely different ways that you could archive them. I definitely recommend, if you're going full on into it and making a bunch of stuff for your world, or like a campaign guide for your world, etc., then for sure, make a folder, and you could, on your computer, you could label them each different types. So here's the magic items in this world, here's the spells in this world, here's the unique subclasses, and then the races. And then you upload, you can do it in Word, for all I care. Do it wherever you want. So long as you and other people who want to use it can access the information easily, it shouldn't be a problem. Now, next up is coming up with the ideas, which is frankly the best and worst part of any sort of creative process. Because ideas come when you least expect them, and when you really need them, they're often not there. I've definitely had points where I needed to sit down for a video and think of stuff, but I couldn't genuinely think of anything, so I've stolen ideas from other people and just remixed them a little bit to make it look like my own. It's definitely a problem that I imagine almost every single creative person in the world struggles with in terms of finding their ideas. And the truth is, and definitely a lot of people that I've talked to will tell you the same thing, DMs, players, and the like, there's no original ideas anymore. Whenever you're making a character, there's always some sort of I don't know, thing in the background driving you that you've seen before or heard before or experienced before. I say right now that my human fighter Battlemaster Orson is not inspired from anything, because originally I don't think he was, but there's definitely something that I saw a very similar archetype of him in. Probably Guts from Berserk. I'm realizing that he has quite a few resemblances too, in terms of how he works and how he views the world, etc., etc. So that no idea is original, especially in D&D, because even if you're the most creative person in the world, it can be really hard to constantly pump out stuff for like adventures that you're not really sure how to work on. The best way to do it, in my opinion, is to watch something cool, remember something that happened previously, and make it your own. Think about, ooh, I really like this quest in The Witcher. How could I do it for this? Let's make a monster or something, and let's put that together. Maybe I'll give it a weakness, Witcher style, etc., etc. You could consider what in the outside exterior world could perhaps involve killing this thing. Maybe there's a specific type of plant that you can use to make a potion that will make it run away from you, or it's more susceptible to a certain type of damage, etc., etc. Go crazy with it, man. Make it whatever you want. Honestly, I think that one of the traps that me and many other DMs have fallen into is, oh, well, I've chosen the theme now, that's it. You can swap between a bunch of different themes all at once. I am currently running on, for my Sunday game, a pirate-themed campaign in Wildmount, and it currently doesn't have a main overarching theme. I definitely have a lot of different ideas that will have different themes to them. I want to add some eldritch horror aspects to it. I want some good old classic swashbuckling pirate negotiating stuff. I want the treasure hunt stuff. It's going to be a bit of a dungeon crawl when you get to the places where there are a lot of dungeons, which there are definitely some. And it's also fairly political. You could branch out and make it everything if you bloody wanted. There's a revenge story packed into here as well. The starting quest was a revenge story. I don't think you need to feel limited to what your campaign currently is. Let your ideas go wild and beyond what you've set for yourself. So in my previous campaign, before I TPK'd everyone accidentally, the main overarching theme was the old, like, becoming the new, and this cycle of violence continuing in something. Granted, a lot of my primary themes were based around that, and I feel like if I tried to explore them more, but they just felt like different themes, but they all felt it wasn't in order at all, really, and it just kind of felt like one event after the other. But yeah, don't feel afraid to just chuck in anything, even if it doesn't make sense. James sent me about half a week ago. You can actually go view this in the Discord server, which is in the description. He made a magic item for his campaign, which is admittedly sounds like it's kind of jokey, and they're all just having a bit of a laugh. Comically large spoon. You know, that old freaking King Batch vine or whatever. Yeah, he made a magic item for that. It's a magic maul that casts like hideous laughter and create food and water, but only dairy products. I love it so much, and I imagine even if you're in a super serious campaign, you can chuck the comically large spoon in, and they're just gonna have a blast with it. It might ruin their immersion a tiny bit, but they'll just have more fun when they get the comically large spoon. So, like, I mean, I think fun should overrule theme, if you will. Anyway, let's get on to how you do this. How you want to do this. Oh, Matt Mercer. So, first of all, you need to decide, what is this for? when you're making it, what do you need this for? Is it for your overarching campaign? Is it a plot point? Like, is this very powerful magic item going to be a plot point for the next 10 sessions? Is this monster that you're currently making going to need to be hunted by the party? That sort of stuff. You can also consider, I'm making a magic item. And when you're generally making a magic item that isn't for a bad guy, you should be making it so that one of your party members would be, like, good with it. I think that it's a nice little love letter when a party member gets something that they really vibe with and that they feel like was for them. Again, it breaks immersion a little bit, but it makes them feel cooler and more special, as if they have a much larger place in the world. So yeah, kind of make your magic items and stuff like that for your players. I think that when designing stuff like races and subclasses for your world, or perhaps just for this adventure or something that you want the party to perhaps be able to use, definitely consider what would be fun to play it for. Is it just going to be a slightly remixed Dragonborn, or is this Dragonborn going to get a fucking tail attack that does fire damage and explodes? That sounds awfully powerful, but at the same time it sounds fun as hell, so please make a dragon race with a tail that just makes people explode. Alright, I'm making that now. That's the first thing you're seeing on Homebrew Kitchen. That's the first. I feel like when you're making a magic item as well, magic items specifically, it should have a place where it is, right? It could be as simple as the bad guy has it, to this has been passed down for centuries by an old druidic family, and now it's your turn to take on the mantle because now you're a level 10 druid, and congratulations, your family's given you this because you're the adventurer. Just little stuff like that, you know? It can definitely help make the magic item feel like it makes sense more. Like, I hate buying magic items. I don't know why so many games do it. You shouldn't be able to buy a magic item unless you're in the equivalent of magical New York or something. It's just, it doesn't sound right to me. I don't know. Players need to find that sort of stuff. Who knows, maybe buying magic items is better for your campaign, but it's never been for mine, and I doubt it will. So something that people I see kind of rarely do, you can tell that some more popular DMs like Matt Mercer have definitely done this before, but if a player is looking at the subclasses and they're thinking, I want to play this class, I know I do. I just can't find any subclass that suits me. That is when you as a DM go, aha, I am the DM. Here, yes, I can help you with that. Let's make something. It is so fun to make something with your players. I remember having like an hour and a half sit down with my mate James, who runs Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and way ago, back when we were in our first campaign, we were working on a monk subclass based on his character's cult, which was basically protectors of the astral and ethereal planes and all the other planes in between to stop intruders coming in. So the monk got stuff to do with that. They got the ability to go through walls at some point, teleport, like cast Misty Step up to their movement speed instead of just 30 feet, etc, etc. I really like that, to be honest. So I'm going to be going into a lot more specifics about this, like the making process of each thing, but generally the main thing that you should consider is how it serves your campaign. If you're making something that your players can choose to do, that's cool. I think it might increase their immersion for something, but don't make something that you feel like won't get used. I think that you can if you want, but the whole point of a homebrew thing or of your dungeon that you're making is so that you can use it eventually. There's a chance that even though you 100% intend to use it, that they're just going to walk past it and never going to interact with it again. Ooh, I put this cool magic item in the dungeon. They never found the secret door. They're never getting that item. That's a big bummer sometimes, so just kind of consider placing it in a place where, if you want the party to have it, you should put it in a place where they're going to get it. I haven't really talked about advice for homebrew worlds and stuff like that, because I can't tell you how to make a homebrew world, man. Everyone's is unique. My homebrew world was a map and names and a concept when I was making it. You might want to do more, you might want to do less. All that I needed was a map, names, and a concept, and a few concepts of the larger continents. Not continents, even, nations. So when I was making the map, I thought the people in the south are going to be Techno-Vikings. The people in the north are going to be arcane wizard people. The people in the west are going to be Waterdeep and, like, monsters and stuff like that. And then the ones on the east are where the dwarves and elves are, and where the halflings are, and where all the little tribal people are as well. That's all I needed to get started, baby, and I could run a full-on campaign in there, so long as before my party got to places, they expanded on them. I expanded on them, even. Hopefully, my absolutely stupid rambling has been somewhat helpful to you. You'll see my advice in a more, good way. Displayed practically in Homebrew Kitchen, which I'd love for you guys to check out when we start doing it. I've already got a billion ideas. The first episode, I think, is going to be a few rooms of a dungeon, perhaps just a few room dungeon, just to kind of introduce you to that sort of concept. I think that when people are starting D&D, they forget the dungeon part. They keep the dragon part in their head, but they forget the dungeon part because they think that's how the old people play it. Dungeons are one of the best parts, man. I love running them. I'm not running one at the moment, and I'm very annoyed that I'm not. In any case, thank you guys for listening to the last, for now, episode of TND&D. I know a few people that might be bummed about this, mostly people that, I play with and stuff. But hey, what you gonna do? Hopefully you'll watch our new series and stuff, because I'm really looking forward to getting that down. I'm really excited that we're doing a new series where I get to make my own stuff. Gives me an excuse to kind of just dick around and make my own things for once, instead of just talking about things that already exist. In any case, see you guys soon.